I'm sure a lot of you already know the name Miss Rachel because this woman is mega famous. But if you don't know Miss Rachel, she's famous amongst a particular demographic, and that demographic is babies and toddlers. Miss Rachel is commonly referred to as the Beyonce for babies. And Miss Rachel started out, I believe, on TikTok, and she makes baby content, toddler content, and sort of speaks to the camera. I think she's well trained in the developmental stages and education of children, and she wanted to find and create a child's show that prioritizes actual developmental teaching. So you'll often hear Miss Rachel go, "Hi, can you say mama?" And all these babies, I need to show you an example of babies when they hear Miss Rachel. She has tapped into something so niche and particular, but very much necessary, which is, you know, in this age of technology when people are just throwing tablets at their babies and videos, at least she was a seemingly healthy resource to help these babies in learning how to talk, learn the alphabet, just learning normal things that kids should learn. She's got a little bit of Pride Month news, but let's first introduce you to Miss Rachel, for those of you who don't know her, by showing you babies reacting to this woman.
You say mama? Can you say mama? Hi. Hello. Can you say mama?
That is so crazy.
Hello. Can you say mama?
Okay, so you guys understand. Miss Rachel, her whole show is crack for babies. They are obsessed with Miss Rachel. And in the age of like Cocomelon and this very vapid child content that kids can find on the internet that in no way is in service of their development, I'm like, cool, I'm glad Miss Rachel is making this content. She seems pretty well versed in how to speak properly to children, and she's sort of viewed as a modern day Mr. Rogers. Now, I'm not gonna go that far. Y'all know how I feel about Mr. Rogers. That man is up there on my list of just great people over history. And Miss Rachel's great. Don't get me wrong on that. But I'm not completely comparing her to Mr. Rogers. Now, she's found herself in a little bit of heat on the internet because this Pride Month, as it rolled around, she decided to post a prideful message in reference to different types of families that now exist within the LGBTQ plus space. Now, when I say millions of people watch Miss Rachel, I mean millions. She's got billions of views across all the different platforms that she posts her show. She's probably the most popular figure amongst young children. And we're talking anywhere from out the womb to like 7 years old, I feel like, are watching Miss Rachel. Amongst other ages, kids with developmental problems watch Miss Rachel. There is a lot. When I say Beyonce for babies, she is the Beyonce for babies. Now, here's her little Pride message. Let's give it a watch and see what all the fuss is about.
Happy Pride to all of our wonderful families and friends. This month and every month I celebrate you. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're exactly who you are. To those who are going to comment they can't watch the show anymore because of the support, no worries and much love your way. God bless. I am not chasing fame or views. I'm standing strong in love.
Okay, now this was posted everywhere. It was going hella viral, and a lot of parents were saying we're no longer watching Miss Rachel. She's made this pride statement or whatever. I don't have such a strong reaction to this. We have further news in regard to Miss Rachel that I have a stronger reaction to, and we'll get there in just a moment. I can understand her viewpoint on this. I can understand as being somebody who's responsible for mass education in some form of way, which is crazy that somebody just on social media has managed to get this space in the childhood zeitgeist, I guess. would say happy Pride to those families in the LGBTQ community. Some kids have two moms and two dads. At this point, some kids have trans parents and non-binary this. Some of those kids are they-bees, apparently. So I imagine there's a lot of room for representation when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community. She didn't say anything particularly incendiary. Doesn't seem as though she's promoted a particular message to children about, gender ideology, about sexuality. Doesn't seem as though she's going through different types of sexualities with these children. And I have special criticism for people who do that. As far as this messaging goes, it's pretty benign, but I can understand as a parent seeing this and seeing Miss Rachel enter a space where it wasn't really necessary to enter. You might want to step back from your kid being able to watch this content. I always say at the end of the day, the onus is on parents, right? I know a lot of parents right now are throwing a tablet or an iPhone at their baby and just allowing the baby to do whatever they want and scroll through as many videos as they want. And maybe they're looking at Miss Rachel as a safe resource and saying, oh, here you go. Here's Miss Rachel's page, and my baby can freely go and click and watch whatever they want. And if it gives me an hour of time to do stuff for me and my baby is consumed with Miss Rachel, I'll leave it there. And now they're finding out that Miss Rachel is supporting Pride and saying, I don't want to leave this person with my child anymore. Understandable. But I have qualms with your parenting if that is what's happening here. If you're just leaving your child with a tablet and allowing them to explore wherever they want, to watch whatever videos they want, thinking you're leaving them with a safe resource, maybe we need to be a little bit more hands-on in our approach with kids. And I think you would still have the ability to choose the more helpful videos that Miss Rachel has to offer without giving them ones where she's talking about supporting families in Pride. That's up to you. I can understand why a lot of people, they've heard what she had to say in this video. They don't support Pride. They're done with Miss Rachel. They're done with everything that she has to offer. That ends up being your choice, and that's your prerogative. But as far as the messages go, I'm happy to report that it was somewhat benign. But as I said, there's more. There's more to this news, and something I have much more of a problem with. Dylan Mulvaney enters the chat, enters the discussion because Dylan Mulvaney is prominent on TikTok. Miss Rachel is also prominent on TikTok. Dylan, either incidentally or purposefully, has positioned himself with a very young audience. A lot of young people really love Dylan Mulvaney. I haven't looked at the demographics of Dylan Mulvaney's page. I don't think we have access to that, but I imagine it skews on the younger end of things, just given the nature of the content. Miss Rachel posted and commented on a Dylan Mulvaney post. Let's actually put this in full screen. Says, sometime when you're in New York City, you should be on our show, Songs for Littles. We love you and your singing. Oh, Miss Rachel, you had me for a moment. I was like, okay, you put out a Pride message in Pride Month. A lot of people do that. It was kind of innocuous, whatever. Now you're inviting Dylan Mulvaney to sing a song for littles. I imagine a lot of kids may have some questions in the viewing of that. Obviously not like the 1 and 2 year olds. I don't think they're capable of comprehending what it is they're watching at that stage. But I imagine you have older children that watch your program that may have a question or two about Dylan Mulvaney and the existence and all the theory that comes around with that. And it's just something that is introduced that I feel is unnecessary to be introduced to children. Again, it could be an innocuous thing. You have Dylan Mulvaney on the show. You guys sing a song that has nothing to do with identity and who you are and sexuality this or gender that. And a young kid doesn't notice. It goes over their head. They think, oh, 2 women singing a song. That's so awesome. Move on to the next video. But also, is it a territory that we need to enter in for the sake of creating, and opening a can of worms that does not need to be open? I have a little bit more of a qualm with that than I do with the general Pride message. In all, it seems unnecessary. I think if you are creating a platform for children, we should probably stick to the basics. And if Miss Rachel's message is love, I think you can communicate a message of love without having some more, political messaging, cultural messaging present in the content. You know what I mean? You could even go as far as to say there are kids with 2 mommies, 2 daddies, all that. That's fine. It's simply true. So there's space for that as well. I can understand though why people are watching this and saying maybe not Miss Rachel for the kids anymore. So yeah. That's where I stand on that. You'll have to let me know how you feel about this in the chat down below. Did you know who Miss Rachel was? Do your kids watch Miss Rachel? Has this at all changed your relationship with her as a content creator? Let me know down below. I do know Mr. Rogers would never. That's a great point, yeah. At the very least, there's that. Mr. Rogers would never. I think he had his priorities fully intact when it came to teaching children. And we're talking about a very religious man who rarely, if ever, made that a sentiment that he shared with children through his program. So you had somebody with very strong beliefs in values, but I think he even understood that could taint the relationship that he has with children, the love that he was trying to communicate, the respect that he was trying to have for their child experience, and the necessity that kids remain kids and that kids get to have their childhood. This is Officer Clemens, who was on the Mr. Rogers show. If you watch Mr. Rogers, you know Officer Clemens. He was on the show quite a bit. And you see them featured here, Mr. Rogers and him. This is a very famous photo of them putting their feet together in a pool. Because, you know, in the wake of the civil rights movement, all these different things were happening amongst black and white people and all these different brawls and things like that. And there was actually a moment where black kids were swimming in a pool and somebody came to pour bleach in the pool. So it was a very significant thing to see a white man and a black man together. And in this scene, I think they were cooling off and like washing their feet in the pool or whatever. So this was a very significant moment. Officer Clemens also happens to be a gay man. And Mr. Rogers was aware of his sexual identity and was aware that he was a gay man who was featured on the show. Was this ever made clear to the children who were watching Mr. Rogers? Absolutely not. It was just an unsaid thing that existed. And he had actually found out that the actor who was playing Mr. Clemens was sort of going out on the town in his personal time, maybe engaging in a little bit of partying, debauchery, a little bit with gay clubs and things like that. And he essentially told him, that's not happening anymore. Like, we have to keep this civil. Your identity is fine, wonderful. They had a very loving relationship, the two of them as friends. And he just said, you know, for the sake of what we've built here with these children and the influence that we have, because it is truly a profound influence with the time that kids at the time spent watching Mr. Rogers and kids at this time spend online right now watching figures like Miss Rachel, you are another significant figure of authority in this child's life. And as they grow up, they're going to remember you even more than like some of the parents' friends that like come in and out of a child's life. So how you represent yourself out in the world when met with these individuals who have been heavily influenced by this position of authority that you hold really matters. And you have to ask yourself, is it worth it to be engaging in this way, knowing the influence that I have? And that's the question that I think Miss Rachel needs to ask herself. It's one thing if Dylan Mulvaney is conducting himself in a different way in his public persona and not advocating for, you know, irreversible damage to children and trans youth and all these different things. It's another that now that you've featured this person on your show and featured them in a position of authority and singing to these children, there is messaging that goes beyond that. And that's something that Mr. Rogers deeply understood in every single piece of content that he created. But now we are somewhat frivolous about in the content that we create because it's just lost its significance in so many different ways, even though it still very much exists. So yeah, she's no Mr. Rogers, but she seems all right.